In this episode, we're going to talk about more of those awesome 80s toys that slipped between my fingers growing up. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we're going to talk about more of those toys that I wish I had when I was a kid. If you're keeping track at home, which you probably aren't, and that's okay. This is number 15 in this little macro series, or whatever you want to call it. Probably like a lot of you out there, I'm just trying to make it through every day, and if I'm lucky, some days, I get overcome by waves of nostalgia. A lot of times, those waves bring with it a little bit of regret of toys that I just wasn't able to get one way or another when I was a kid. And, they were things that you were excited for, that you saw commercials for, or saw on the store shelf, what have you. But, like I said, one way or another, they just never materialize in my toy box. Anyway, in this 15th installment of Toys I Wish I Had When I Was a Kid, we're going to take a look at a little bit of everything. Most of them are from very popular toy lines during the 1980s, and one of them isn't a toy at all, but it was something I wanted so badly. So, with that being said, let's kick things off with that one, and let's go to number 1. Now, the first items on the list is unfortunately a scenario where I am doubly cheating. Firstly, like I said, it's not a toy at all. Secondly, it actually comes from 1977. Although these items were throughout the 80s in my childhood in one way, shape, or form. So all of my memories are from the 80s with this item. Anyway, with the episode recently that I talked about forgotten fast food toys, I remembered these. These are the McDonald's Plates. There were 4 in total, and looking at them today, I am still smitten with them, just like I was 40 years ago. The artwork is incredible. McDonald's spared no expense when making their products back in the day, and these plates just offer little portraits of the McDonaldland characters having fun and living in their whimsical world. I know, it might sound really silly to romanticize this, but yeah, I used to love these plates. Unfortunately, the only person that really used them regularly in my life was an aunt, and believe me, they weren't well-to-do, we weren't well-to-do, so pretty much every meal that we had at their house was on these plates. And, my parents scoffed at it, but we weren't any better than them. Actually, they were better than us because they had those plates. Now, the next toy that I wish I had when I was a kid comes from Hasbro in the year 1984, from the Transformers toy line, and it is the character Hound. Now, Hound was a military-style Jeep, and that set off a lot of sirens to me as a kid, because, like a lot of kids growing up in the 80s, we consumed a lot of action movies, military-based action movies, as fanciful as they were, like Commando or Rambo or anything like that. Now, you couple that with a healthy love of G.I. Joe, you have a no-brainer. This is a military-inspired Transformer figure at that time, and he would have fit perfectly in that military toy universe that I was playing with. You know, G.I. Joe, Rambo figures, just whatever action-oriented, military-esque thing I was playing with. Now granted, his scale, it doesn't work for G.I. Joe, but who cares? He could pal around with Gung-Ho or Duke or whomever and just fit perfectly. I mean, I had a few Transformers and I love them very much, and I have a lot of nostalgia because of the cartoon and everything else, but Transformers was kind of on the back burner because of how expensive they were. So I never had a full-blown, Transformer toy universe to play within, so Hound would have fit perfectly in the universe I had. I know that sounds like a lot of gobbledygook, and I apologize for that, but yeah, Hound, great toy, great character in the cartoon. I mean, what's not to love about this dude? Our next toy is another one that comes from the 70s, and I apologize for that, but it comes with a heaping pile of regret with a story that you won't believe. That toy is the Alien action figure released by Kenner in 1979. Now, before we get on to my story, the one that still keeps me up at night, I just have to say that Kenner has never played by the rules. A lot of people call out their, later releases of like RoboCop and Police Academy and things like that, of them marketing toys from adult movies. Well, they were doing that in 1979, so I think they were the innovators of just pushing the envelope on the products that they were marketing to kids. Anyway, the Alien action figure it's awe-inspiring. It's 12 inches, it's not super posable for, things at the time, and it features the design of the alien from the original movie that closely resembles the designs of H.R. Geiger. I only say that because it has, a smoky, translucent head that you can see the skull that's underneath, which, is very reminiscent of his designs for the movie. Anyway, the real story lies not with the toy, but with a situation that I found myself in. See, we had a family that we were friends with through, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and things like that. Well, in the early 80s, I can remember them having a yard sale, and my mom and I went over there to help out and, just pal around for the day while they were outside, selling their wares. The mother came to me with 2 Alien action figures, and not knowing what it was at the time, I declined. I have no idea what happened to them. They could have been donated. I know they weren't sold. They could have been thrown away, which is sickening. But I didn't know really what they were, and yeah, they were cool looking, but I declined. That is something that still haunts me to this very day. And I don't think I realized the folly in my decision until a few years later when James Cameron's Aliens came out. I was obsessed with that movie. I still am. It's a great horror action movie, sci-fi action horror, whatever you want to call it, that holds up to this day and is a classic. And yeah, after seeing that, it clicked, and I started figuratively kicking myself in the ass ever since. Still to this day, 35 or more odd years later, and I'm still torturing myself over the horrible decision I made. But like I said, this wasn't something that I truly wanted when I was a kid, but the story and my blunder are just too rich not to share. Now, I may have shared this story somewhere along the line on this channel, but I don't really know where. But when I was putting this list together, this just popped into my head and I needed to talk about it. I needed to admit how stupid I was. So, while I take another moment to reflect on this horrible mistake, here's the original commercial that aired in 1979.
Kenner presents new alien action figure.
Maintenance flow! Quick, shut the air lock! The alien's locked out now! He got through! Shh! Give up! Alien can't be beat! We'll zap him with the light! Don't, he'll destroy the spaceship! We've lost! Better find another ship! Let's try the kitchen! Another triumph for Alien!
Alien action figure. New from Kenner.
Over the course of these episodes, we always seem to come back around to G.I. Joe. This episode is no different as we talk about the water moccasin. This was released by Hasbro in 1984. And yeah, this is still a grail item, if you will, for my G.I. Joe collection. I would love to have the water moccasin. This thing is perfection from tip to top, and the character it came with, Copperhead, is darn near perfect. One of the things that just grabs my eye about this wonderful little watercraft is its color. I don't know why, but as soon as I see that shade of teal, is that what we can call it? I just am zapped with nostalgia at just how great this toy was. Again, this was one that I wanted and never had. I had a neighbor down the street that practically had every G.I. Joe figure, Mask figure, Transformers figure, what have you, and he had the water moccasin. I can remember playing with it in his pool and just, loving every moment of it. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but there was something about just water-based toys that was awesome. I mean, I don't know if it's because we were younger and we took a lot of baths and that was something you could take into the bath and have fun with. I don't know, but yeah, I really wanted the water moccasin, and Copperhead, still to this day, is one of my favorite Cobra action figures. Now, I have the figure. I was able to find him, and I have him. I just need the water moccasin. It had such great action features as a thumb-driven propeller. It had a turret with movable guns. It even came with a little, torpedo on skis that, you could send after whatever Joe vehicle happened to be in the water at the time. I don't mean to speak out of school, but I think this only had room for 2 figures. One in the turret and one driving it. And it had a removable canopy in the front, and that's where Copperhead would sit and pilot. Or he could take it easy and just sit behind the guns and just go to town on some sharks or what have you that are going by. And I don't mean finned, fish sharks. I mean the G.I. Joe shark. Anyway, let's take a look at the original 1984 commercial that featured some kid's backyard that would never exist, but looked really cool.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe!
Cobra's stealing the capsule! They're getting away in the water moccasin!
And with him are the evil new Cobras, Fireflies, Scrap Iron, and the Baroness.
The shark will catch him.
G.I. Joe! A real American hero!
They're throwing the capsule overboard! Let's go get it! Way to go, Joe! Go, Joe!
G.I. Joe Shark comes with diver. Water Moccasin comes with driver. Other figures sold separately from Hasbro.
Our final toy is yet another vehicle. This time it comes from the Masters of the Universe toy line, and it was released by Mattel in 1983. It was the Attack Track. To me, this seemed like such innovation in toy technology. It had treaded legs that kind of flipped and flopped. It didn't move like your traditional tank, folks. So it kind of walked and did this, and it could, scale up little rocks and things like that. But it was awesome. I mean, it's a great vehicle. Very neat design. The red just pops. But that, kind of wiggly woggly traction that it had just blew me away when I was a kid. It only had room for one figure, and it featured those awesome handlebars, if you want to call them that, which were just like hollowed out little ports so that you could put the character's hands in, because, they were molded, got a grabby hand and just like an open hand, and they would go in there. So it looked like he was actually, piloting it to a degree. And yeah, it's only made for one character, but it was pretty bulky. I mean, pretty nice toy. And yeah, it was one that I never had. I never had a lot of the Masters of the Universe vehicles, and this one is pretty close to the top of the list of ones that I would love to get. I can only assume it goes for a pretty penny, like a lot of the things on this list. So I'm really curious to see what our hunt on eBay turns up, and if something like this is even in the ballpark of reality for me. I don't think it will be, but I can hope. And with Mattel, with their Origins line in full swing, I would love to see this vehicle re-released. It'll probably still be a little bit more expensive than I'm willing to pay, but it'll be really cool to see it on the shelves once again. Now, the one weird thing about the Attack Track was its animated legacy. The ones that appeared in the cartoon were nothing like the actual toy. The one that was in the cartoon was actually more like a transport carrier, and, a lot of people could ride around in it. That's totally different than the one-seated model that we got for the toy, and it was an entirely different color and an entirely different design. So that's really weird how Filmation and Mattel just did not communicate that one vehicle. Now, there of course are many discrepancies between the cartoon and the toys, but to me this was a glaring just oddity of the cartoon. Anyway, I know I've mentioned the term wiggly woggly, treads a few different times, but what better way to see it than with the original commercial from 1983.
Not even He-Man can find Skeletor here. The Attack Track can track him down.
He-Man, Skeletor, and the Attack Track each sold separately. Batteries not included. Attack Track has power that just won't quit.
They track Skeletor. Spoiled again. Yeah!
Attack Track from the Masters of the Universe collection. He-Man and Skeletor each sold separately from Mattel.
Okay, folks, we just took a look at 5 more toys I wish I had when I was a kid. Like I said, these are all over the place. We have some popular franchises, Masters of the Universe, Transformers, G.I. Joe. We even had some dinnerware. Who would have thunk it? Anyway, you can't tell the heart what it wants. So, nostalgia just makes the heart pitter-patter for the past. And, I mean, plates. I wanted them then, I want them now. We'll take a look to see how obtainable they are in our next episode, but I'm not holding out any hope. And what do I do with them once I get them? I guess I can get those cool, plate holders that people put fine china on, but to me, these are the finest of china. Like I said, my parents scoffed at my aunt and her family for using these for everyday meals, but why wouldn't you? They are perfect, they are beautiful, they have personality, and yeah, just whimsical fun. Anyway, enough about the plates. The only other note that I can leave with is, that alien toy. I probably will regret that stupid decision until the day I die. I know that's silly because there's been a lot of crappy decisions that I regret throughout my life, but yeah, that one just stings still to this day. But I was a kid and I didn't know any better, so at least I have that to fall back on. Doesn't take away the sting any less, but at least I can comfort myself in that thought. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's new episodes. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky.